Bob Arum says he'd be prepared to discuss Deontay Wilder versus Jared Anderson by the end of this year. Now, be willing to discuss and actually be willing to make the fight is a different matter altogether. But anyway, let me quote Bob Arum. He says, Wilder is a terrific talent. He hits like a mule, as Tyson would attest to. Pretty much anybody in the heavyweight division would lose to Wilder. The one guy who will be equipped to beat him by the end of this year is Anderson. I will be prepared to discuss a potential Wilder versus Anderson fight by the end of this year. We are grooming him to be the next heavyweight champion after Fury. It says here, once Fury walks away from the sport, Arum expects Anderson to take over the heavyweight throne. And Arum said, yes, that's what I really believe he will be. When Fury hangs up the gloves, Jared will be in pole position to become the next great heavyweight. Mike Tyson was a thunderous puncher who didn't show much boxing ability. Jared has shown boxing ability and power. He reminds me more of a young Muhammad Ali than a young Mike Tyson. Okay, what do I think about what Bob Arum is saying here? I'll be surprised. I mean, depending on what happens in Deontay Wilder's career in 2022, you know, he might fight somebody else and lose, let's say. And if he loses really badly, then I'm sure Bob Arum would be serious about making Jared Anderson versus Deontay Wilder. But if Wilder comes back and let's say he fights Andy Ruiz, knocks him out in 2 rounds, do you really think that Bob Arum is going to be looking to put Jared Anderson in with Wilder in that situation? I think, based upon what I've seen of Anderson so far, from a technical point of view, from an athleticism point of view, he definitely has the potential to beat Deontay Wilder. It's whether he is mentally mature enough. It's whether he has the boxing brain, the experience and so on to be able to deal with somebody who's as ferocious as Deontay Wilder. It's the ferocity. It's the awkwardness. It's the fact that at any moment he could land that right hand and the fight's over. No matter how well you're doing, that right hand is a game changer. And for some fighters, that's very intimidating. They're not used to being in there with someone who is such a prolific knockout artist as Deontay Wilder. There are plenty of other guys out there who hit very hard. There are plenty of guys out there, I'm sure, who if they caught Jaron Ennis with their best shot could hurt him, drop him or knock him out. But how many of them have got the consistency that Wilder has of landing the big right hand? See, Wilder is not only a big puncher, he's a prolific puncher. And there is a difference because you've got some guys out there who are big punchers. They can hit very hard, but they don't have a knack of landing that big punch on a consistent basis fight after fight. Deontay Wilder does. And that's what makes him so dangerous. He has a knack of landing that right hand. The only time he wasn't able to land it was and I say he wasn't able to land it, he landed some glancing shots. He didn't land it flush in the second Tyson Fury fight. That's the only time. In every other fight, Wilder has managed to land the right hand flush, including the third fight against Fury. So he is very, very prolific. And as Paulie Malignaggi once said, he may be a one-trick pony, but it's one hell of a trick. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about Bob Arum saying that he'd be willing to discuss. Again, he's very careful with the wording. Didn't say he'd be willing to put Anderson in with Wilder. He said he'd be willing to discuss the Wilder fight by the end of the year. And currently, just to look at Anderson's record here, he's 11-0 with 11 KOs. So, you know, what is Wilder, 40 fights in or something like that? He's had over 40 fights. Are they going to put Anderson in with Deontay Wilder the back end of this year? Is it realistic? Again, if Wilder loses or looks really bad, possibly. And also, you don't know who they're going to put Anderson in with in the meantime. If they give him a significant step up and he comes through that with flying colors, that might give them more confidence. They might look at their guy and say, well, actually, maybe he genuinely is ready for Wilder. But again, we'll have to see who they put him in with. I'm not expecting that to happen. I would be quite surprised if they put Anderson in with Wilder this year. Unless, like I say, Wilder looks really bad or loses in his next couple fights. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. And as far as Anderson going on to replace Tyson Fury, and there were certain things that Bob Arum said there, like Fury is the only person in the division who could beat Wilder. Yeah, I've never believed that. And also, as far as Jared Anderson taking over from Fury, Fury's still got plenty of people to fight. As good as he is, I am not one of these people that has crowned him the best in the heavyweight division when he's only got Wilder and Klitschko in terms of A-level competition on his resume. No, man, there's plenty of other guys out there that he needs to fight. There's the Dylan Whites out there. There's the Anthony Joshua's out there. There's the most important one, Alexander Usyk out there. And several other heavyweights. So, yeah, I'm not putting Tyson Fury on. I'm not crowning him prematurely like so many other people want to do. Yeah? And like Bob Arum is trying to make out as though there's nobody else out there other than Tyson Fury head and shoulders. Well, okay, put him in with Usyk. Put him in with Dylan White. Put him in with all. And if he can beat all these guys, then yes, he deserves that crown. Right now, the crown in the heavyweight division is up for grabs. Nobody has it. There is no definitive number one as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, with Jared Anderson, very talented. To me, he looks the most naturally gifted of all the young heavyweights coming up. But naturally gifted doesn't always equate to success, you know, or at least not the kind of success that Bob Arum is talking about. Because there are the intangibles. Does this guy have the heart? Does he have the boxing brain? Does he have the stamina? Does he have the punch resistance? We all know that he's got the athleticism. It's there to see. Quick hands, good balance. I mean, the way he moves around, it's as if you're watching a middleweight or a light heavyweight in there. You know, he doesn't move like a typical heavyweight. Much more fluid, much better balance, much better coordinated than your typical heavyweight. And at 6'4", he's kind of a medium height for a modern heavyweight. He's not on the short side. The short side would be, I guess today, under 6'3". 6'3" or under might be considered short. He's kind of like a medium-sized heavyweight at 6'4". I'm talking about, again, his height. So, and obviously he spars with Tyson Fury and what have you. I don't think, because I've seen some people say that 6'4" is going to be too short. I don't think it's too short at all. Not at all. I think 6'4" is plenty tall enough if you're good enough. We'll find out if Jared Anderson, excuse me, is good enough in the coming years. And it's kind of comparable to Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe, who are 6'5". They were the tallest guys, or among the tallest guys in the division. Certainly the best big guys in the division, guys that were 6'5" up, were Lewis and Riddick Bowe at the time. And you had Evander Holyfield, who was like 6'2", 6'2.5". So it's similar with Jared Anderson, where he's 6'4", right? So he would be the equivalent, if you're talking about height comparisons, the difference between his height and the likes of Wilder, Fury, Joshua is comparable to the difference in height between Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, those guys, and Holyfield. You see? And yet Holyfield was still able to compete with those guys. He obviously has a win over Riddick Bowe. In the rematch with Lennox Lewis, although Lewis won it, it was close. So, you know, and Holyfield was a great fighter. So anyway, that's a guy who moved up to heavyweight. That's a guy who wasn't a natural heavyweight. Jared Anderson is a natural heavyweight. You see it? So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments.